Greetings again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of OSI Today, the podcast featuring news and views from around the Office of Special Investigations. I'm Wayne Amon from OSI Public Affairs. August 1st, 2023 marks the 75th anniversary of OSI's inception, and throughout the year, the command is commemorating the occasion based on the theme, Inspired by Our Past, OSI's future starts today. And with me to discuss how the 2nd Field Investigations Region fits into that scenario is Region 2 Commander Colonel Tara Lenardi, Vice Commander Colonel Emily Gibo, and Senior Enlisted Leader Chief Master Sergeant Jason Stambaugh. Folks, welcome aboard to the program. Great to have you all with us today.
Hey, thanks, Wayne.
Colonel Lenardi, I'd like to begin with you, if I may. Region 2 was created back in June of 1992. How did that activation come to fruition and Region 2 became Region 2?
Hey, so first, I just want to say that we appreciate you indulging us to do this a little differently than you normally do. We think the command team approach here will kind of help well, since we represent, like you said, kind of Region 2's past, present, and future pretty well. Colonel Gibo served here on Region 2 staff many moons ago, and I joined the team fresh from teaching at NDU in 2020, right in the middle of COVID. And Chief is our newest team member, straight from serving as the senior enlisted leader at 512. So with that, just thank you very much for this time.
No problem, ma'am. It gives us a good cross-section of perspectives, though, no doubt about that.
Yeah. To answer your question, so yes, so Region 2 was created in 1992. We went way in the way back machine for this one. Frankly, I was a junior in high school.
Wow.
So I don't think Chief was born yet. So
I'm wounded, ma'am. I'm wounded.
But in 1992, OSI moved from kind of the district structure to align along the major commands. So OSI Region 2, stood up when ACC stood up in 1992. To this day, the Combat Air Forces, as a Combat Air Forces lead, ACC serves as that primary provider for the air combat forces to America's warfighting commanders. Mm-hmm. It looks a lot different today than it did then, since its activation in 92. Let's see, ACC's returned its ICBMs and bombers to then Strategic Air Command, and that's now known as the Air Force Global Strike Command. Mm-hmm. ACC has gained the combat, rescue mission and oversees extensive intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance force, and then also 16th Air Force Cyber Forces. So starting in the 1990s, OSI kind of followed ACC's lead also with organizing how we're deploying forces in line with that Air Expeditionary Forces concept, that AEF concept, that primary method that the Air Force uses to deploy its forces around the globe, through peacekeeping in the Balkans, counterterrorism efforts in Africa, and most especially, in long-term operations in Southwest Asia since 2001.
Sure.
So throughout this time, sweeping changes in our nation's military policy have kind of forced ACC to not only, force some structure reductions, but also, a requirement for much greater flexibility than ever before. And they remain kind of on call to perform a variety of missions, including, like I said, peacekeeping, humanitarian needs, and protection of our nation's interests around the globe. As OSI ACC, though, we're right alongside them, helping to keep airfields green and preserve airman lethality.
Very well said, ma'am. Now, turning to you, Colonel Gibo, as the Vice Commander, as the regional headquarters for all OSI units conducting criminal investigations, counterintelligence activities, and specialized investigative and counter threat support for 5 commands and 2 numbered air forces, what challenge or challenges does that diverse responsibility present for the folks of Region 2?
Yeah, so and boss, please jump in if you wanna add your perspective, because you're living this day to day. So obviously our size is a massive challenge, right? We're the OSI's largest region, and we have teams geographically separated all over the world, to include OSI's only forward deployed warfighting squadron. And so that means we have deployers' lives in our hands, in addition to our agents who are doing the job day to day in the continental United States. And so as our deployers deploy in and out of theater from their respective OSI home regions, we have to be very mindful of the responsibility that comes along with that.
Mhm.
And as we're seeing, younger and younger, more unseasoned leaders are now deploying into both GCC units and EDETs, which presents increased challenge for our team here in Region 2. And it goes without saying that things that happen in the deployed area and in ACC in general tend to get a lot of visibility due to the combat air mission. There are a lot of people asking lots of very important and pertinent questions when things happen in the Region 2 AOR, which constantly keeps us on our toes.
Right.
Ma'am,
right.
did you want to speak to the CAFRGen and Lead Wing?
Yeah, so another challenge I would add to what Colonel Gibo said is just keeping up with ACC. It tends to really lean forward, like we're seeing now with CAFRGen, construct and the ACE lead wing concept. OSI as a command is still kind of thinking through what this means for how we're going to deploy our forces, and what this means for supporting in garrison missions. But as it leans forward, we kind of have taken a cue in Region 2, because one of the things we love about ACC is how it leverages and rewards diversity of thought through efforts like Sword Athena and Spark Tank initiatives. So from these, we've kind of initiated efforts like the Iceberg, which focuses on saving airmen's time and chasing efficiency, and our own, Region 2 Innovation Award. I would add that a third challenge is that we have a lot of inexperienced talent. It's not like my first time in OSI back in the day. I was taught by a superintendent with a ton of experience, very seasoned senior NCO, and I had 3 assignments and was a senior captain before I commanded my first OSI det. Today, our leaders, many of them are in their first leadership jobs much earlier in their careers and leading mostly rookies.
Right. Well, it certainly gives Region 2 a fresh perspective with the new faces, I would imagine, ma'am.
Right. No, absolutely. And the last challenge I would say, with our vast, AOR, it's difficult to get out and travel around to engage, our many strategic partners as often as we like. So by the time, I rotate and our 24th EFIS commander rotates out, we're going to be lucky to meet with counterparts more than maybe 1 or 2 times. So our force protection detachments are just absolutely critical to maintaining those crucial ties in the midst of leaders cycling through.
Right. Yeah, it certainly sounds like, Region 2 is continually burning and turning to make things happen mission-wise for the command. Chief Standby, I'd like to bring you in now, if I could, please, sir.
Sure.
With Region 2 headquarters at Joint Base Langley Eustis in Virginia, its geographical jurisdiction spans 28 field locations in the continental United States and overseas. What's been Region 2's key to successfully operating with such a wide footprint as that?
It is a wide footprint, and actually it's 32 units we support.
Okay.
Globally.
Like I said, Region 2 is burning and turning, that's for sure.
That's right. Yeah, if you add in the expeditionary and force protection detachments, it comes to a grand total of 32. So
we appreciate the update. That's good.
Right. Yeah. Overall, it really comes down to open and clear communication and cooperation, both throughout the region and with our partners. Also, well-established processes and a keen eye towards continuous improvement. What that looks like internally is close collaboration with our major command partners, numbered Air Force airmen, interagency colleagues, local and foreign counterparts, all to work towards a common goal. Internally, that would encompass a culture of trust and psychological safety. We solicit and share feedback very often, up, down, side to side. To us, every voice matters and counts.
I see.
We value and leverage our diverse talent. We trust our airmen to understand commanders' intent, make risk-informed decisions at the lowest levels. We also emphasize peer collaboration between commanders, senior enlisted leaders, to lift all boats, so to speak.
Sure.
And leveraging the impressive experience of our total force airmen, our IMAs, as pinch hitters when we need them. Word travels fast, Mr. Amon. Folks know there's something in the water, something different about the magic happening in Region 2, and they want to be a part of it. So
very, very good. Well said, Chief. Colonel Lenardi, put on your history hat, if you would, for a couple of seconds here. What are some of the mission milestones that Region 2 can reflect on that have defined its legacy? I know there have been many, but are there a couple that kind of stand out for you?
Yes, no, most definitely. I'm going to kick this over to Colonel Gibo though, because she's been here, both as vice commander now, and then was previously a staff officer here on the Region 2 team.
Sure. Okay. Colonel Gibo?
Thanks, ma'am. I was also a deck commander at 217. So I have a lot of Region 2 stink on me, a lot of time and under my belt. And it's all been really informative and really positive and life-changing. So obviously we've been in the thick of things really since the inception of Region 2. We've supported countless contingencies throughout the Middle East, such as Desert Storm, Southern Watch, Vigilant Sentinel, Desert Strike, Desert Thunder, 1 and 2, Desert Fox, and Operation Vigilant Warrior, just to name a few. And really since 2001, we have been the lead in supporting Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. And then in 2003, Operation Southern Watch, which later gave way to Operation Iraqi Freedom and is now known as Operation Inherent Resolve. So we have some really lengthy ties there in the Middle East. One of our most recent milestones that wasn't just a Region 2-ism. I mean, it really touched so many regions, all the regions really across the command, but where it really got its start was Operations Allies Refuge. When our Afghanistan partners in that NEO, the largest NEO in history that was supported by Al-Udeid and our other GCC units, where our teams screened over 117,000 people and denied at least 35 people with terror ties from entering the United States. It was a massive, massive undertaking, one that wasn't initially on DoD's shoulders, but our teams more than rose to the challenge. They did some remarkable things out there with very limited resources. They made it happen, and as such, they were awarded the Humanitarian Service Medal for their efforts. So, which was very deserving. They put in so much work and truly were just incredible during that time frame.
Yeah, no doubt that, ma'am, that Region 2 was definitely on the world stage at that time. No doubt about that.
No doubt. But, I think it's extremely important. We all think it's extremely important when we're talking about these mission milestones that we honor our fallen, many of whom were killed in action in AFCENT's AOR. And in fact, at 24 EFIS's field office at Al-Udeid Air Base in Qatar, there's a memorial wall. And like many across our command units, there are frames that frame the pictures of our fallen, both our fallen agents and our National Guardsmen, our civilians, our administrators, our defenders. Right. But what's unique at Al-Udeid there is that those frames come from Kandahar Airfield, which is no longer in existence. We no longer have an air base there, but those frames actually come from Kandahar. And so there are 16 faces in those frames, starting with Agents Hitchcock and Round, who in 1967 and 1970 respectively gave their lives in support of the Pacific Air Force's command mission. Right. And then the 14 others that served their final days in support of AFCENT's theater of operations. Those names include Agents Albright, Kohlmeyer, Ballmer, Kublik, Crowell, Schultheis, Weiger, Master Sergeant Brown, Staff Sergeant Bonacasa, Agents Cinco, Sergeant Lem, Agent McBride, Agent Taub, and Agent Vorderbergen. All of those people were survived by children and spouses, parents, siblings, and friends.
Right.
Will always be remembered by their OSI family. And, our command is small, as you well know, but their stories represent a piece of each of us, and they have absolutely defined Region 2's legacy as well as OSI's legacy.
Yes. Now that ties in perfectly to my next question, Colonel Gibo. So thank you for providing that transition. Who have been some of the significant contributors to Region 2's success through the years? Obviously, you just named a litany of the fallen and so on and so forth. But there are some other ones that maybe have stood out that have really in your view, perhaps, or maybe Colonel Lenardi's view, have stood up, I should say, have stand out for Region 2 over the years?
Yeah, so, and the team will jump in because there are so many, right? I won't remember everybody, but I think it's interesting that so many current and past OSI commanders have cycled through as the Region 2 commander. Commanders such as General Taylor, General Simmons, General Jacobson, and currently General Bullard. There's something to be said about the water of Region 2, right?
Exactly.
Region 2. I would be remiss if I didn't point out, I think the obvious, which is currently we have Region 2's first female commander and vice commander. That hasn't happened before in Region 2. So I think that's pretty impressive. And also we have the first SEL that was not in Region 2 anyways, that was not a proven wing SEL in the past. So previously you had to be a proven SEL at another region before you could take the Region 2 slot.
Right, ma'am, for our novice listeners, of course, SEL stands for Senior Enlisted Leader.
Thank you so much, yes.
Sure.
And Chief Stambaugh broke the mold and is continuing to break the mold as he is incredibly impressive, coming straight from Det 512 in England, and now serving as our senior enlisted leader here at the region. It's been incredible. There are several others. Chief, if you want to jump in, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Matt Seitz, who is an institution in and of himself. He's a pillar, and he really serves as our continuity, not just for Region 2, but for OSI at large. He's quite the man, and his brain is impressive with all of the knowledge he holds. In fact, Mr. Amon, I really do think you should give him his own episode on this podcast, because man, he has some stories to share.
I'll definitely take that under advisement. Thank you for the heads up on that. Chief, while it's been kind of handed off to you by Colonel Gibo, and we're talking about people, I did want to get into this if I could, if I may, sir. Since March of 2020, COVID-19 has been a concern for the command, like it has been for pretty much everyone in the planet. How has the resiliency of Region 2 personnel manifested itself while navigating through the pandemic and still doing the mission at such a high benchmark?
Well, not to dodge the question, sir, I do appreciate it. But having just got here in March, I'm gonna, if boss, if you're okay with it, I'm gonna kick this to you.
Sure.
Since you were here during that time and can speak a little more eloquently to that.
Ma'am, what do you think?
Yeah, no, of course. So, Wayne, I think OSI wing leaders were actually more prepared for COVID's impact with regards to distancing, because we operate day to day geographically separated from our field units anyway. It's not like a typical wing or Delta commander. They can walk out of their wing headquarters door, jump in the GOV and drive, or even walk over to, such and such unit and connect with their airmen, check on folks, ensure that those safety precautions are in place and essential missions are getting done. But I think overall, I mean, it's important to point out that OSI agents, can't refuse a case, right? So, we have victims and justice to preserve there. We don't have the option to not go to a crime scene or preserve crucial evidence or refuse to do, crucial interviews. We're forced to empower our field leaders to make those calls on the ground based off of local conditions. And quite honestly, COVID kind of forced us to do this a lot more than we had in the past. There wasn't, if you recall, the orders kind of coming down from General Bullard at the time, he couldn't get all the way down to the tactical level. He had to empower, we all had to empower our leaders at the local level to make tough calls based off of local conditions. And they had to preserve their bench depth, right? OSI can't afford an entire detachment to be in quarantine. We need agents to be able to respond. So overall, I would say, it helped that we were very connected from the beginning. We were concerned about loneliness, especially for our single folks who rely on their DET teammates and fellow staffers. Here at Region 2, we emphasize kind of you're not alone in our messaging and encourage folks to reach out. Right. Trying to desensitize that stigma that it's weak to ask for help. It actually takes courage. We encouraged imaginative DO300 events and leveraged our resiliency experts at headquarters on many occasions and continue to do so to this day, both in garrison and deployed, which has been hugely helpful.
Sure.
In addition, we did virtual DET visits. I took command in July of 2020, and in September 2020, we started, like I said, virtual DET visits, but also this monthly leadership connection with our field commanders and SACs to kind of just carve out space for us to connect with one another virtually and discuss, what's on our minds, challenges, lessons learned from failures and mistakes, and just, have this connection time with each other. The last thing I would say is that our work-life boundaries both challenged us and helped us through COVID. I mean, we try to set that example by not emailing or calling with an expectation of a response during non-duty hours. Because if you
Right.
recall, like when you're teleworking, it's difficult to find the end of your day. There's no
Right,
closing
right.
up the office or like driving home, to put your mind in that space. I'm done for the day. So
Right,
we try
right.
to kind of advertise, even in our out of office messages. And Chief started this last year, and we loved it so much. Many of us in Region 2 do it now. We're letting folks know we're not available because we're on leave with family, or we're in a professional development course, or we're hiking in the mountains. Kind of
Right.
set that example.
Right, right. Very well said, ma'am. While we get into the home stretch of our program here, I'd like to throw out something for all three of you. If you could put on your, or actually bring out your crystal ball a little bit, how would you characterize the future of Region 2? What's on the horizon, do you think, for the region?
I think it's exciting, super exciting.
In a word, it's exciting. That's right.
Yes, yeah. We're kind of forced to be more agile. I think there's a lot of things that we'll continue to do, long after the three of us leave. I think that we're building a culture to accelerate change and stay relevant, to empower our talent and our staff, and field leaders. You guys got anything you want to add?
Yeah, I just keeping an open mind and breaking away from the way we've always done it. Recently,
Amen.
very recently, I saw a great motivational poster out there in the field that said, just because we're good at something, since we've always done it that way, doesn't mean it's not incredibly stupid. And I love that because it forces us to think differently, right?
Can we quote you on that, Chief?
Not my quote to be quoting, someone else's, but I love it.
I would jump on top of that and say, we have a quote hanging in our office that says, "The imagination is a weapon. Those who don't use it die first." And I think one of the things that our region leadership team has been great about is really challenging our folks to challenge the status quo, to ask the why behind why we do things, especially where it doesn't make sense, because so often the why is, well, that's the way it's always been done. And that's an answer that doesn't necessarily fly in Region 2. Just because it's always been done that way doesn't mean it has to continue to be done that way. Let's be innovative. Let's be imaginative. And we are so fortunate, not only in Region 2, but across this command, across OSI, to have really smart, engaged, energetic, and innovative people working in our command. We are so fortunate to have the bench strength that we have in terms of just talent in OSI. And so it's leveraging that talent, right? Tapping into it, unleashing it. In General Brown's words, we are giving the intent and then letting leaders lead with that intent and be creative and imaginative while being effective and efficient. So I'm so excited to see where Region 2 goes as we continue to make some good trouble and push the boundaries. It's exciting to see what the future holds for Region 2.
Very, very well said. Now, again, for all three, before we wrap up, is there anything else that any of you'd like to add about being part of OSI's historic 75th anniversary observance this year?
Oh, I had one thing I wanted to add real quick. I think one thing that we really need to hammer home, it's not just about the agents of this command. It's about our SISs, who we really have learned over the past few years just how critical they are to success. It's about our administrators. Any unit without an administrator will tell you that they are worth their weight in gold. It's about our IMAs, who we absolutely could not do this job without. It's about every single person that serves in this command. We are fortunate to have such a great group of people. And I know, at least from Region 2, thank you to all of those people, because we could not do it without you.
Truly
Amen,
blessed.
Colonel Zabel. Yeah, I would add on there too, our OLA at Shaw, OLB at DM. I mean, no other region has like that hybrid staff operational unit like this, but we could absolutely not do our jobs without them, and our UDM and WF experts.
That's
To
right.
have that global reach and logistical support that we do in Region 2 today. Totally foot stomp the criminal investigations and indexing experts, those CIS teammates we have, and our analysts, on staff, and in the forward, just critical to ensuring, operational success. This is not going to change, right? It's been that way through history, and it will be their support and expertise will be even more critical in the future, for the way, as we change the way we fight.
Well said, Colonel Lenardi. Our guests have been Region 2 Commander Colonel Tara Lenardi, Vice Commander Colonel Emily Gibo, and Senior Enlisted Leader Chief Master Sergeant Jason Stambaugh. Folks, thanks again for all three of you to take the time. We really appreciate you sharing your expertise, your knowledge, and giving us a little bit of a history lesson to boot.
Of course. Thanks, Wayne.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
And thank all of you for listening, for tuning in. For OSI Today, I'm Wayne Amon saying so long for now.